Hi there. Welcome to Cargo Film Presents. I'm Dave.
Now I'm Dan.
On Cargo Film Presents, we talk documentary film. Today we're going to be talking about Tina, the HBO film, which is the story of Tina Turner, who electrified audiences on stages worldwide with her energetic and charged dancing and singing. A remarkable story and career. And, by the looks of it, this couldn't have happened to a sweeter person. What did you think, Dan?
Yeah, I might be wrong about this, but is this a um, new genre in documentary, or a new stage of documentary where you have farewell tours, you have farewell concerts, and now you have the farewell documentary. So this was in a way
Yeah.
Tina's, I think, her final statement on her career and her life and her music. So I thought that was kind
It's
of
a new
interesting.
sub genre of the music documentary.
I mean, I guess it also speaks to this sort of stage we're at with documentaries, whereas you see like a huge star, like an icon like Tina Turner would see a documentary as, a platform and a way to essentially say goodbye to her
Hmm.
fans and tell her story one last time in her own voice. I think that was what, was really powerful about this film, is that you got to hear from Tina, narrate her own story. I was familiar, probably like most people, with Tina Turner
Yep.
growing up in the 90s. She's a sort of star icon, and a little bit about Ike Turner and Tina Turner's relationship, and the domestic abuse that
Hmm.
she suffered at the hands of Ike, but not much more than that, in that kind of like sensational tabloid way. And I thought the film, while maybe it didn't present anything particularly new, did allow Tina to tell her story and present this very intimate portrait of her in a very sensitive and sort of caring and compelling way.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Yeah. I mean, it's a music bio where the live performances are almost worth the price of admission right there. I mean, the footage of Tina's stage presence is,
Incredible.
is just incredible. And I mean, we've all seen and heard Tina in action before, but kind of seeing her across 2 hours, it's pretty breathtaking. I mean, what a force, so electric and magnetic. And I really like the filmmakers here. I'd seen a couple of their previous films, Undefeated, which won an Oscar, but I especially liked LA 92. I don't know if you saw that, but
Yeah.
pretty remarkable film, which I highly recommend. But a very well told story, and with the bread and butter of a lot of these music documentary biographies, they got great visual and audio archives, right? And it kind of weaves the present day master interview of Tina Turner, looking great as ever at 80 years old. And as you said, uses her words to tell the stories, while then, having others come in and fill in some other relevant details. It's kind of like the map for telling music docs these days is those three or four elements.
Her story reached so many people who felt like they had to keep their secrets locked away deep down.
Yeah, as you mentioned, just a wealth of great archival material, and I really like the way the filmmakers treated that archival material too. There
Hmm.
was,
Yeah.
sometimes a sense you use archival, you mix it with maybe some B-roll footage of the present day or something, but they seem to have found B-roll footage of the
Yeah.
time, like that was also archival. So there's this way in which you just got to live in the world of Tina and her music, at those particular time, in that particular time period that you were in.
Yes.
I guess we should say that I did find the first third of it pretty tough. I mean,
Hmm.
it is hard and painful to listen to the abuse, and Tina calls it the torture, essentially, that
Yep.
she went through with Ike. And so, I think the filmmakers really handled that sensitively and delicately, which was, giving you some of those details, but not in such a way where it became sort of sensational or lurid. Or sometimes you see in docs where it's like, you know,
Right.
filmmakers or the storytellers trying to get in there and just hear all of that emotional pain. It seems appropriately done. Which,
Yeah.
it's interesting. I think one of the most compelling parts of the film is that it's the paradox of Tina, is that, she she doesn't really want to talk about that part of her past, right? And part of what the filmmakers are asking her to do is to relive this trauma, which she doesn't want to do, and so that becomes kind
Yes.
of the central. I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah,
The tension, right? I
yeah,
mean, it's
central
it's one of
tension.
the
So,
questions that you can't help thinking is whether you can tell her story without referring to Ike so much.
yeah,
And it is this tension throughout the film, and perhaps obviously throughout her life of wanting to having to talk about this abusive, traumatic relationship. I mean, she just wanted to be Tina post Ike, But from the day she revealed to People magazine in 1981, the story of the abuse, it kind of took on a life of its own. And by the way, on a side note, do you remember seeing I mean, first of all, she's sharing this remarkable story in People magazine, but the cover, on the cover of the People magazine issue of where her story appeared was Johnny Carson in golf attire, which I
you
was like,
see
come
her
on, people.
just at the
Yeah,
top corner, like,
yeah,
do
yeah.
you know
That's
something? You're like, wait, what? Really?
right, exactly. Anyway, but after that, then it comes her autobiography that she co-wrote with Kurt Loder in the mid '80s, where she hopes she will finally answer and address all the questions about the abusive relationship, so she doesn't have to talk about it anymore. What happens? The questions continue. Then a few years later, there's the movie, and she's still answering these questions. They keep coming, and there's this piece of footage that they use that shows Turner sitting down for an interview in the late '80s, early '90s, and the first question has to do with Ike, and she's shocked, and she has to take a minute to compose herself. This poor woman.
I had an abusive life. There's no other way to tell the story. The divorce, I got nothing. No money, no house. So I said, I'll just take my name.
And I don't know. I mean, I feel like even these filmmakers can't help, going to Ike, throughout the film. It's almost like a disservice to Tina, to be honest. She's told you for like almost 120 minutes she doesn't want to talk about Ike, and yet they weave this footage of him throughout, even towards the end, where they're capping this triumphant third act of Tina's story, and then they amazingly come back to Ike with news of his death. I'm sitting there saying, no, man, don't go there. Tina's not going to be happy. It's kind of like what Tina says in the film. That the Ike story is like a curse.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think, yeah, it was it was a little unfortunate, maybe the number of times they went back to Ike. I think they
Yeah.
were smart about using that 1981 interview, with
Mhm.
not Michael, Carl Arrington from People magazine.
Yes.
So they didn't have to actually, go too far with Tina in the present day interview and sort of
Right.
dig into it with her, and so that was, I think, a way for them to get to the trauma and get to some of
Showing
the
a little bit of
details without,
sensitivity there.
yeah,
Yeah.
without actually having to speak to her in the present and relive it again. As she says, she has nightmares about it. She
Right.
physically.
But could they have told the story without going back to him the last couple of 3 times there? Of course they could have told that story.
Could have, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you got the sense of what a horrific relationship she was in, and what a horrific individual Ike turned out to be.
Yeah, I know. And I mean, it just said to me, it sort of breaks your heart a little bit, because you realize that, for me anyway, I think, America doesn't really treat its artists very well.
Mhm.
I mean, it's always the sense in which artists, um, are always going after their privacy, their weaknesses, their vulnerabilities. Like, why aren't people talking to Tina Turner about her music or
Right.
her performance, her,
It's
her
true.
craftsmanship, all that stuff. Like, that was one thing I think was missing a little bit in the documentary. It was, as you say, so much about returning to the story of Ike, and their relationship, because it keeps coming up at every stage of her career until he passes. And, she, she says that she maybe gets some closure there by forgiving him. But, I did wish at least that there was a little bit more conversation about Tina as an artist.
Hmm.
It was,
There wasn't very much. You're right. I
not
mean,
much.
there were some anecdotes, and at least, at the very least, they showed at least more than usual in these music docs, where they just show 10, 12 seconds of a performance. They did 2 or 3 full songs practically.
Yeah.
So that was nice. Yeah, but there wasn't much of an exploration. You're right, of of the music and her as a musical artist. And I suppose comes back to what is this ultimately about. And Angela Bassett, I think, says in the film, well, Tina's story is about love. Well, I respectfully disagree. I mean, it
What's
seems like
love got to
it's
do with it, Dave?
exactly. Thank you. Right on cue, man. So it seems like it's more a story of a lack of it, right? I mean, she was abandoned by her parents as a child. Both her parents left. When she becomes famous, her mother re-enters the picture, and Tina says she says, quite frankly, in the film, that she was really there for the luxury that the money could buy her, and which Tina was happy to oblige her with, but she never actually felt love from her mom. She's quite frank about that, which is a remarkable disclosure. And then, of course, her relationship with Ike, which may have started off nice but morphed into just a terrible relationship where she's held hostage. And even post Ike, she doesn't really talk about having many friends. So there's not much love there. Maybe from the fans, but as we know, isn't necessarily a true replacement for real human connection. So it's not until her late 40s where she finds a loving relationship finally, and that's a long time to wait. That's a long time to wait. And so perhaps I would say that this is more of a story of triumph of an abandoned black kid, teenager from Tennessee who gets a shot, and using her raw talent and not stopping despite many obstacles of abuse and trauma, finally lands as a cultural pop music icon, which is an incredible story.
When I saw her dance, she was all I could look at.
He rehearsed constantly.
And then the pressure came that we had to work more to try to get a hit.
And I was afraid.
Yeah, I think you're right. It is. And I think that's why so many, why she has so many adoring fans that, I mean, you see some of that in the documentary through the archive, just how much, her fans love her and appreciate her. And, you get the sense that it's because, she's a survivor and she's survived loneliness, as you said, abandonment, heartbreak. And there's a great moment in the interview tape she has with Kurt Loder, where she's like, where I guess she's had a few drinks or starting to drink, and she's like, I've had so much heartbreak in my life,
Right.
And yeah, so and someone getting a kind of a second act, is that old quote, I think it's F. Scott Fitzgerald, but it's not exactly him, where there are no second acts in American life. Well, Tina Turner is the second act in American life. I mean, it's almost impossible. Like, I think that's another thing I enjoyed about the film was, you got put back in that moment to think, this is almost impossible. Like, a 40, 50-year-old woman to get a second chance at a career and do the kind of impossible, reclaim her name, reclaim her art, reclaim her music, and become a global superstar. And it's just like, it's kind of insane.
It was unheard of then. It would be unheard of today too, right?
Yeah.
So it is pretty singular as a story. I enjoyed her story about how, despite the relationship she was in, that it was it was Buddhism that actually offered a way out. That Buddhism explained to her that life can offer change, and she was able to transcend the fear that she constantly felt. And it's amazing, right? For an outside observer, we take this stuff for granted. Then we hear this story of abuse and we think, well, why not just leave, get out of there? But it just goes to show it isn't easy. It's this perception of not having choice, which is the real power the abuser has over the person being abused. And that was her way of breaking through. and it was through Buddhism. So shout out to Buddhism.
There you go, Buddhism. Yeah, I mean, I did wish that was explained a little bit more in the doc, because I think there might be some people, as you say, who would think like, well, why doesn't she just leave, or and
Right.
not really understanding that kind of situation, or the fact that Ike, controlled everything. He controlled the
Right.
finances, controlled the people around her, the music, like every part of her life.
Yeah.
She was essentially at his, at his whim, really.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I imagine though there's a danger of going into too much of a social issue territory,
Mm.
perhaps as well, if they would have explored that further. But I'm just reacting. I'm not sure. There might have been a way of developing that further. It's true.
Yeah, you do get a little from the background dancers, and I think
Yeah.
her and Ike's manager, but yeah, just a little bit more. Anyway, it's
Yeah.
small potatoes.
Yeah. There was another story as well. The story of the making of What's Love Got to Do with It.
Yeah.
From the fact that she hated the song when she first started, saying it was kind of very poppy, to the originals '80s band called Bucks Fizz. Did you ever heard of this band?
Never.
Never, but it's got to be one of the worst pop band names ever. They recorded that song, which they really didn't make that song come alive, boy. And the clips they showed of the Bucks Fizz video of that song in the '80s, with all these kind of muscle bound men pumping their pectoral muscles to the beat. Wow, that was something.
Yeah, go YouTube that video if you.
No, I tried.
No,
Because
you
I had
didn't.
this, I tried. I couldn't find it. So if
Really?
somebody finds it, please let us know.
Yeah, post it in the
Yeah.
comments.
Yeah. All right. So, so yeah. Anything else would you like to add then?
No, I had one thing that I was
Yeah.
wondering about, and maybe someone knows about this in the audience, but I thought it was really interesting. The filmmakers they shot what appeared to be Tina's old home in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
There was some shots of that. So
Right.
I guess she still owns that home, and it's kind of in disrepair. I mean, it's a beautiful, kind of formal element as they're talking about the kind of deterioration of, Tina's relationship with Ike and her home life. And, you see the bed that they
Mm-hmm.
shared, and their,
Mm-hmm.
these rooms as the son is telling a horrific story. Anyway, yeah, I was just like curious, to know.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
I'm
and then
sure that
they
wasn't a set, right? That was actually her. That's still maybe her home, or.
perhaps I'm not so sure. But then they revisit that in Switzerland, right? They then
Yeah.
give you a tour of her home in Switzerland and how her life is now. So again, as you say, nice stylistic element there to capture Tina pre and post.
Exactly.
All right. Cool. Okay. Well, so Tina, you can check out on HBO Max. We recommend it. Tina is awesome. We could have, liked to have had a little less Ike and more Tina, but hey, there's still enough Tina there to enjoy. So thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next time. See you then.
See you then.